Kyle, you've said that understanding leverage, especially through your team, is the key to significant growth. How do you think a law firm owner can start identifying where they have or lack leverage in their firm today?
What are you doing currently is the question to ask. Uh, Make a list. I mean, I've had some clients make a list where literally everything that they do throughout the day for the firm, whether that's, cleaning the conference room or answering phone calls, whatever they do, they kind of create like an org chart. And so they say, this role or this task is filled by me currently. And so just kind of map it out and understand where you are, where you're putting your time, and where your time can be better spent.
Yeah, with that, I think I'm just assuming some things about some people because I think that that's fantastic advice. I give that advice sometimes too. Sometimes though, there's things on that list where they still insist on I have to do these things. How can they get over that? Because the reality is that they know there's other people that can do those things just as well, if not better, or close to as good. So how do you get them over that mental hurdle?
Yeah, that's a great question, and that really can be the biggest bottleneck is the owner. And so, like, I would say for me, it is really helpful to walk through some to kind of talk it through with somebody like a trusted advisor that they can show different perspectives, things you're not thinking of, or yeah, you could do that thing, but is that really the best use of your time? Could you delegate it to somebody, or are there other people who have different skills and abilities beyond yours that could actually do that thing better? One thing I see a lot is in law firms, leaders are default attorneys. And while I don't disagree with that in some respects, you absolutely need that in certain roles. Not every lawyer is going to be a good leader for a given role. And you might have better leadership coming from a different person who's a non-lawyer.
Yeah, I this is a good way segue into leadership because I want to talk about leadership with you.
Great.
And you've been married for 10 years, you've got
Mhm.
three kids, and I wonder what lessons from parenting can you
Mm.
take and apply when it comes to leadership in a company, if any. I know
Oh,
it's kind
no.
of out of left field, but I am curious what you can take from parenting and apply to leadership in the company.
You can learn a lot from parenting. I would say one is being consistent. If you don't know how your kids are going to if your kids are unsure how you're going to react, that can be very difficult to deal with. Where it's like I want to come to dad or mom with this thing, and I don't know if they're going to get really upset. I don't know if they're going to not care. I don't know how they're going to handle this. And I've seen both in previous experiences. So, really building consistency on how you approach things, I would advocate for a calm, understanding, orientation, and kind of have that be your default. But um, if you're just really angry all the time, or you handle things in a really kind of a rash manner, you're not making good decisions. Oftentimes, you're thinking emotionally, and to be able to step back and process the information in a methodical way. And maybe you're really emotional about it, and you say, "Okay, I just need to think about this. I need to process this. I need to take a step back, and we'll talk about this in 15 minutes." As something along that, and so it really gets to how are you leading yourself, and you have to have good leadership of yourself before you can begin to lead others.
Ooh, I like this topic. Okay. How can we be better leaders of ourselves? Because I'm assuming some of this has to do with um, you commit to something internally to yourself. You're
Yeah.
constantly letting yourself down by not making those commitments, which then lowers your confidence, which then affects your ability to lead. And maybe I'm going down the wrong route, but
No,
if
you're on track. You
okay,
got it.
let's hear
You
more
got
about
it. So
this.
I would say get clear on what matters to you. Get clear on your core values. What's important, what's a non-negotiable, what you are absolutely going to say yes or you're going to protect against and say no to things. And really, I understand what your ideal you is. And then once you have a clear idea of those commitments, then you can, like you said, begin to build in disciplines where you do certain things or you don't do certain things, and you modify your habits to be in line with your core values.
How do you come up with those core values? Is there any tricks to, or do you have any advice on getting to those core values, those things that you really that you believe in, that you stand by?
So I believe that they are one of my core values is I believe in my community. So I will prioritize my community over myself. I want to see the benefit of not just myself but other people, and I want to be a benefit to them. So that is a core value of me. I'm a Christian. I believe in the Bible. I've had a relationship with Jesus Christ for close to 10 years, actually over 10 years now that I think about it. And that's my set of principles. I'm not saying you have to be a Christian, but you should have some sort of belief system, and you need to study it, and you need to back up why you believe what you believe and why it's important to you, and how it drives you forward.
Yeah, there is there's a lot of importance when it comes to aligning your values with your employees,
Yeah.
and it's a lot easier if you can kind of figure out at the beginning, what are your values, what do you believe in, kind of a thing. Do you have any advice on hiring when it comes to finding the right people for your company, and bringing them in to make sure that you all match? That way, there's not a point later on down the road where and whether they're religious values. I mean, obviously, you're not expecting all of your employees to have the exact same religious values. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking
Right.
about like those true core values, whatever they may be. Is there a way of figuring out what those are early on? That way, down the road, you don't have some sort of conflict that says, well, they kind of go one way with it, you go another way in it, and you're sticking with your values, but it's sort of against their values. So, any way of trying to figure that out at the beginning?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I would say ask. Just
Oh,
get clear. And I mean, I advocate for putting your core values, maybe not explicitly stated, but weaving them into the actual job description. Like at our firm, we believe in XYZ thing, client service, transparency, putting the client first, something of that nature, or if that's important to you, or excellent work product. And we have standards to back that up, and you can maybe talk about that a bit, about like what your checks and balances, your quality control uh, procedures look like within your firm. And that's a great way to get that conversation started. I would say you need to just be thinking about it. A lot of people don't think about it. They look at the resume, they look at skills and experience. Some people, they level up a little bit and they look at culture fit, personality. Good on you if you're doing that. But you might be somebody who's a great culture fit. You might have all the skills and experience necessary to perform well at that firm. But if your long-term goals don't align with the firm, if you want to be partner in 3 years and that's never ever going to happen at the firm, like that's not a good long-term fit. You're not going to stay there long term. You might be very successful in a role for 2, 3 years, and then you're going to move to some place that can accommodate those long-term goals better, or you're going to go do your own thing. And that's really the big hurdle that law firms are up against, is how do you manage and retain talent? And how do you get people that are aligned with the mission and vision of your firm and are going to serve your clients at a high level and you can invest in and train and enhance their skills and not have them leave one day. I run into so many lawyers and they say, well, I don't want to get employees because I'm afraid they're going to leave. They're going to take a bunch of cases. And it's a valid concern. I mean, that's a big concern. Uh, but you have to figure out how to do it if you want to grow.
Yeah, I think that definitely is. I was just talking to an attorney in court, Tom Durfee. He's just launching his firm July 1st, so it's kind of an exciting time. And we were kind of talking about leaving his current firm and what they're supposed to do with cases and everything. And it's kind of interesting thing. Luckily, him leaving his firm, it's very amiable relationship that they have, which is fantastic. But it's not always that way. I do want to ask you more about leverage. I want to get more into what you mean by leverage
Mhm.
from a business standpoint. But before I do that, I want to ask you about leverage. I think one of the when it comes to employees, because I think one of the big mistakes over decades is that employers have viewed they've had leverage over employees, right? They've got the salary, and
Mhm.
this is the carrot, and they kind of use that. They've got that leverage, but it feels like that shifted substantially over the last 4 years. Although with AI, I think it could shift dramatically back the other way. But how do you view leverage when it comes to employees is the question.
Okay. So I could interpret that a few different ways. So correct me if I'm not answering the question how you wanted or what you wanted to get at.
Listen,
So
I don't want to get at anything. I just want to get your perspective. So it's
yeah.
whatever you say. Yeah, I'm not looking for anything. I'm just curious what your thoughts are.
So this goes back to communicating your core values. That people want more than a paycheck. I think that's part of what we've seen shift in the last 4 years or so that you've alluded to is uh, paying the bills is important. Don't get me wrong. Having a competitive compensation and good benefits, that's kind of a given. But people want something more and they want alignment. They want to feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves. And if you don't have core values or you don't have a vision and mission statement, you're not like what separates you from the firm down the street.
Yeah, I think that's important. Um, there is a let's talk about motivated employees for a second because
Mhm.
I'm gonna tell you this example. I was at jujitsu
Mm.
a couple nights ago, and a buddy of mine there, he left. He was working for this steel company for a long time, and he just left and went. He's working at Walmart, and he was working at this big distribution center. It's
Mhm.
massive, which hearing they use AI with it. He's got this headset, and it's all fascinating. I can talk about that in another episode. Actually, just the AI that they use at Walmart. It's really interesting, but it's interesting that how they approach how employees can get paid versus how they incentivize employees versus employees that worked for the steel company that he worked for.
Mhm.
Because and I'm gonna the numbers don't really matter that much, but let's say he had to take this piece of steel. He would had to basically it was really really hot. He had to put this big old freaking furnace looking thing. He was there all day, but let's say he had to do 600 pieces a day. Okay,
Okay.
whatever it is. And if he got done at 2 o'clock and got all of his pieces done, he could do nothing the rest of the day, right? He could just get paid to be there all day. But he had zero incentive to do more than 600 because he didn't get paid more than nothing, right?
Mm.
Walmart is really interesting. Their approach is way different. So if let's say he's supposed to do 600 boxes a day at Walmart, and he would it's they're moving things around and stuff, but that doesn't really matter either. But
Yeah.
let's say he does 600 by 2 o'clock, but he's basically done one and a half times what he is supposed to do, right?
Right.
They pay him time and a half,
Mm.
um, where it's brilliant from Walmart's perspective because what they get to do is they're getting all that extra labor and they're not paying them full freight. They're paying them half of the time that they would normally pay someone full freight for. So it was a brilliant, I thought it was a brilliant idea when it comes to incentives versus a terrible way of disincentivizing employees. So I wonder if you have any tips on incentivizing employees, keeping employees motivated.
Well, just to go off of the example you brought up, you also have data to show who's the most productive. And over time, you can, bring in more people that look like Dave and act like Dave, or you could bring in maybe you cut the bottom 10% that's not really performing or just doing the minimum to bring in more productive people. And so if you don't incentivize any behavior that goes above and beyond, you're not going to get that data to figure out and how to figure out how to optimize and who are the real top performers and what are their the common like overlapping themes, personality traits that you should be looking for and hiring for that really work out well in that type of role.
How do you keep that data? How do you track the data? Because there's some things I do find it even as much as tech leveraged as we are, the I do find it difficult to track everything. Even though I want to track everything, and tracking everything is basically tracking nothing. But
Yeah.
how do you find good, simple ways that don't require manual inputs, which is that's the worst is having like requiring some sort of manual input for data.
Mhm.
Are there easier ways? Do you have any tips on that?
So one, I would you got to get to first principles. What is most important for that role? And every role is going to be different. Like if it's a sales role, um, you know, close ratio is going to be really important. Another one, if they're like a intake person, speed to lead is going to be really important. So how fast does that person follow up with somebody who contacts your firm? So there's going to be different things. Now, some of those are like you've said, AI is starting to take over some of those functions. Um, there's a lot of different tools. I'm learning about AI tools all the time that do really neat stuff. I don't want to do any third party advertising, but there are tools out there that, I'm aware of one AI tool that'll look at what you're doing and bill it to the appropriate client. So you don't have to keep track of your time. So there's all sorts of tools out there. And yeah, manual is not ideal, but even if you're doing it manually, you're at least tracking the data somewhat. It's better than nothing, I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Is
Yeah.
it's better than nothing. And uh, I a lot of people they get overwhelmed, like, oh my goodness, there's so many things to track. Yeah, there is. Just pick one. Just start picking, one or two. Start small, build it out over time. It's a lot harder to like track 10 and start tracking all 10 at once. Get in the habit of just tracking one or two things and then go from there.
I love that advice. It's just great advice. It's consistent with everything I've heard from everyone from like Jason Selk to anyone else that is talks about KPIs or the key things you should be focusing on. So I think that's great.
Yeah, and on that, there's a I don't know if it's often attributed to Einstein. It says not everything that can be counted counts, and not everything that counts, can be counted. And so there are some things that are a little bit more difficult to track. And yeah, not everything's going to fall into a nice number. And I think sometimes we get overly fixated on numbers. And while I'm very big on data-driven decisions, that's what the AI systems that we've built are all about. You do need to recognize that we can get over fixated on numbers.
Yeah. So let's get into some of the AI. Let's talk about like when we're talking about leverage, like
Mhm.
uh, talk about what we're talking about with that,
Yeah.
but then tell us about what you're doing with AI because I think that that's something that people would be really interested in.
Yeah. So leverage. First, we need to define what leverage is. So a lever, you have something on a fulcrum, and you press over here, and it has an outsized um, it does outsized work. So that's why if you have the right jack stand, my 40-pound kid can jack up a 3,000-pound car, because there's leverage there. And so there's the amount of work gets more done. So, for instance, in the setting of a law firm, you might be able to get, say, 100 cases done in a year. That's all. That's really kind of your upper limit, let's say, for this example. But if you get in a paralegal, maybe your leverage now goes up, and you can handle a lot more. You could maybe get 200 or 300 cases done in a year. You get a few associates, and now you're getting in a year's time of everybody working, instead of getting 100 cases done, you're getting 600 or 700 cases done. So it's a way to accomplish more in a set amount of time.
Then I think that's a great description. Let's talk about what you're doing with the AI stuff, because
Yeah,
that I think that is where I think a lot of value can be had over the next few years.
absolutely, absolutely. So our AI systems are very unique. There's a lot of AI out there. A lot of people are throwing things out there, and sometimes it feels like I just went to the ABA Tech Show in Chicago, and it was like kind of like everybody had AI this or AI that, and it was some of it was pretty underwhelming, and then there are a lot of people like, oh yeah, they have AI, but it's not that good. I would never use it. Um,
Off air, I really want to hear like the silliest piece of AI that you've seen, but you don't have to say it on air. But I'm very curious to see some of the things that you're like, oh, okay, that's silly.
yeah, yeah, I would be happy to share. So the our systems are a bit unique. It's actually something that you don't, the client doesn't get a hold of at all. So it's not another login to manage, or another, piece of software for you to keep track of. They're systems that are created for professional services. They're created so that lawyers can make decisions very, very quickly. And so they're decision making tools that generate reports. Our clients get reports. So one identifies their 5 largest opportunities for growth, because there's probably 100 different ways to grow your business, and not all of them make sense for your specific situation. And so we wanted a way for our clients to get a very clear picture of what makes the most sense for them in their particular situation. And it might be something that saves them time or money, or it might be a really big opportunity to make more money. So it just depends. It's usually a mix. And it not only tells them what those are, but it spells out what they need to do for the next 6 to 18 months, so they know where to focus, what's going to give them the biggest return on their time and their money.
Yeah, I mean, employees are the most expensive thing that we pay for. So have doing this right is right. So I'm gonna share my screen, and I'm gonna talk through this in a way where people that are listening, they can actually understand what we're talking about too. But I want to show just this is your website, and
Hmm.
I I think I think it's really interesting what you're doing, and this is the hiring decisions made easy, and you got this report which is really really interesting. Tell me like what's in this report. So you've
Yeah.
got
So the
yeah
Right Hire report,
yeah
that's the other tool that we've built. Right Hire allows our clients to make hiring decisions up to 7 times faster. And
yeah
as you know, the recruitment is very stiff. I worked with a lot of different people who said, basically that they had way too much on their plate, that the owners were doing 3, 4 different roles. And I would say, well, you need to, delegate this to somebody. And they would agree with me. And I'd say, so are you going to focus? Are you going to, hire somebody? And they would go, oh, absolutely not. I'm not going to work with a recruiter to do this. I'm like, okay, so are you going to do the hiring? And they go, yeah, I guess I will, but you already told me you're maxed out. So this was a way to shrink that skill gap and to
yeah
look at a broader swath of information. So this looks at their personality, their personal goals, and their skill set on the client side, and it's going to give them an overall rating that we're looking at right now. And so it's going to look at those on the clients or the candidate side, and then on the company side, it's looking at the benefits they want to offer, the culture they want to develop, and the long-term developmental opportunities that are available. And
So
what that is really looking to do is to bring all those six considerations together so that people can so we can get a really good picture of who's going to be the best long-term fit, who's going to serve the clients the best, and who have personal goals that align with the developmental opportunities that are available.
yeah, well, I think it's really cool. So like we've got right now, I've got this page up. So it's on the website, and it's from the report or a sample report, and it has
Yeah.
like this candidate fit score, which I think is cool, company fit score, which is cool, and then you've got those things you were talking about, like you got the personality, goals, skill sets, development, culture, benefits, and then you've got this Venn diagram where it kind of shows the fit when it comes to the candidate or and then the role in the company, which I think is just it's a really interesting way of analyzing things. And I know there are people and companies out there that are doing something similar, but your approach seems to be different because you're using API to or AI to do it, not API.
Mhm.
And you've got so it says your GPS for hiring gets started today, and you've got these charts and everything. I think that's cool, but the I think it's neat is you're using AI to do it. So can you, without revealing too much, can you talk
Yeah.
a little bit about how you're using the AI to figure all this out?
So we have subject matter experts that we've trained on a ton of data. So our system uses over 113 different experts and their knowledge base. And so all the experience that all those experts bring comes to about 2,500 years of experience. So it's a tremendous amount of expertise consolidated into one system. Because look, I know you've been running your practice for a long time. I know other people have too. I know you guys have done great things, but you get 113 experts in a room, you're going to see some things you didn't expect to see or hadn't considered. And so this is a way to get a detached perspective, an unbiased perspective. It's not, oh, well, I like their hair or I like the way they dress or whatever. It's data, and it's data in several different categories. It's talking about the personality, their personal goals, their skill set. It's also telling you how to manage them on the back end. So if you get the complete report, it not only tells you the hiring decision piece, who you should hire, but it's telling how to onboard them, how to train them, how to retain them. So it's really giving really great insights that go beyond just the hiring decision. Um, for instance, one of our clients, they hired somebody. They were a great fit, but one of the interesting things that the report brought out was that this person was really big on physical, like paper, and they're a fully digital firm. And so what they ended up doing, what it recommended, the report recommended, is you should print out all your material and give it to them in a packet, so because they're going to learn it better and they're going to refer to it more, and they're going to use it more. And sure enough, they like loved that. It resonated with them a lot more, and it was just a neat, interesting little way to bring this person to help them become part of the firm quicker, easier. And so um, our clients, they a lot of times they take these reports and they keep them close by, and they refer to them later on beyond the hiring decision.
Yeah, we used to use a company called Talogy that had something that they're doing it differently, but it was something similar where we got a report, and it was interesting because I when I talked to the lady, they talked to you afterwards, and you have a little conversation about things, and they it's been very interesting how like management how we're able to manage employees when we have data. It's really what it is. It's this is better data.
Mhm.
Because I'll give you an example. Kristen, who's in charge of our hiring, she her big thing is that they told us in advance, hey, she likes to have a task to go and complete the task and then move on to the next task and then complete the task and move on to the next task. So she doesn't do very well though if it's just kind of like, here's the work, go figure it out. Like you have to give her, you don't have to give her guidance. Just she wants to know she can kind of. It's almost like the instant gratification. And so we did kind of design things around that. Like you do this, you do that, and so it's invaluable advice that you can get from these reports. I want to go back to the step AI though. I think that's what we were
Yeah.
talking about before.
Yeah. The step AI is are the first thing I was mentioning. Yeah. Hmm.
Right, and I should have started with that, I guess. But
Oh, you're fine.
I was so excited about when to talk about the right hire
Right
AI.
hire is very exciting. And I mean, like I said before, talent management is really the big hurdle that law firms are up against. And it starts with a good, solid hiring process. If you can't get A players into your business, everything else is downstream of that.
Yeah, and so it's cool. You've got this. Basically, you've got this executive summary and the focus report, but you've got the categories: clientele, messaging, networking, product, people, scale, service, operations, grip, safety, technology, profitability. Here's my question with this, because
Yes.
we're not going to go to all the reports, but everything about this report. But is there one of these categories that is the most important?
Mm. I mean, here's the issue. We Everybody's struggle is going to be a little different, and what depending on what growth stage they're at. So if they're a small solo practice, the big thing is going to be client acquisition and service delivery. But um, if they're a larger firm, their struggles are going to be different. And what we didn't like with other services, other you know coaching services or whatever. A lot of times it was like a one size all fits all system. So it's just kind of this cookie cutter program, which not saying those don't work or they're bad. I'm just saying this is more tailored. And then the other thing we didn't like is maybe it wasn't considering everything. So oftentimes clients would come to me and they'd say, "Hey, we have this people problem." Well, it turns out it's not only a people problem; it's a leadership problem. And so we have to, address both of those. But you're only aware of the people problem, and you're not so focused and aware of these leadership problems. So it's a really good way to assess the whole business and look at everything because like for instance, one of those on there is risk. Risk management is very important, but often neglected. As the firm is growing, there has to be good risk management pieces in place because I've seen firms that are rapidly growing, and so are their bar complaints, or so are the ethics complaints, and so it's it's a there's a lot of different areas to look at, and we wanted something very holistic so that we could really get our arms around all the different issues at play.
Yeah, the last question I want to ask you is about Step AI, and you get this customized report, and it
Mhm.
gives the five biggest opportunities for growth. What are some of the most commonly uncovered um, opportunities and and I really want to focus on ones that might surprise law firm owners. So, can
Mhm.
you think of anywhere like these are the most commonly ones that come up, but that maybe they would surprise law firm owners to hear?
Yeah, so one that's common is mission, vision, values are not well defined. Um, I've also a lot of people. There's usually a lot of people problems. There's usually a fair bit of like messaging issues that their their ideal client profile isn't very well defined, or there's other messaging work that needs to be done, and then actual like sales, that sort of thing needs to be squared away better. While some of it is surprising, like I'm just reminded of one client that took our Step AI report, and afterwards they were like really surprised. Like they're like, "Wow, this makes so much sense." I had all these ideas swirling around in my head. I just wasn't sure which one made sense. I didn't know which one I should work on first, and then or if this was actually something I should focus on, or if this was really more of a distraction. And so they really they expressed a lot of relief because they knew exactly what they needed to work on first, second, third, fourth, fifth, and then it could allow them to focus. And then the other thing that we really like about the report is we can now hand it to team members. And so he was immediately going through it and going, oh, step two, I don't need any help with that. I have somebody who can help with that. I'll just give the report to them, and now they know, and we can all get on the same page. And so it's really good to align the team.
I love that. All right, Kyle, we're going to wrap it up there. But if people want to reach out, if they want to get in touch with you, or if they want to know more about Step AI or Right Hire AI, give them all the details.
Yeah, so Chief Go Officers is our one website, and then righthireai.com is our other website. I'd love to connect with you on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn, and so I'd love to connect with you. Tyson, I was curious, what was your biggest takeaway for today?
Um, my favorite part, I guess not my biggest takeaway, my favorite part is probably in the what I want to talk to you the most about was the right hire stuff.
Mm.
I really did. Um, Leadership is obviously really, really important. I think we need to do a follow-up episode because I want to ask you about whenever you determine that a leader is not the right leader, how do
Mm.
you fix that solution, especially when the leader's at the top? So I think that's an interesting part of the conversation.
That
So
is definitely a interesting part of the conversation. Yeah. Um, yeah, so I really appreciate it. I'd love to come back, and I'd love to connect with your listeners. So if anybody wants to connect with me, shoot me a text. I'll give you my phone number right now, 224-628-9935. You can reach out to me, talk to me about your business concerns. Connect with me on LinkedIn. Tell me that you heard this podcast, and that's how you came to know about me. I'd love to connect with you and speak about your business and see how we can help it.
I love it. Kyle, so great to have you on, and we're gonna have to set up that in-person podcast. So
Let's do it.
we
Let's
talk
do
about
it.
leadership and that's a big one. So I think that'd be a fun one to talk about. So really appreciate it. Thanks for coming on and sharing all your knowledge, and hopefully people will reach out about Step AI and Right Hire AI. So see ya.
My pleasure. Thank you.